G'day and welcome back to Brian's Backyard. It's the first week of November and that means it's tomato time in Melbourne, but it's also glorious in the orchard. So let's do a quick whip around and see how things are going. Come on. The bees are still having a good time at the lavender and popping in to pollinate the trees. Netting the espaliers has chased the possum away and everything's bouncing back, but we did lose a fair bit of fruit, so we'll see what we get this season. That said, these nashies are looking fantastic. Speaking of pears, check these guys out. We have got a bumper crop this year. Under the netting, the peaches are on point. And I've got no idea what we're going to do with all of these blood plums. And a solid crop of pluots. And although we didn't have a lot of blossoms this year, we've got a bit of fruit set on the apples. And that's good enough for me. And not to forget the cherries, they are looking great. The orchard's firing on all four and the veggie patch is just getting into gear. So let's do a quick whip around there as well. Come on. The pumpkins we put in a few weeks ago are going great and I'm just starting to take the barriers off of them now. And over here, the zucchinis and the tromboncinos are doing just fine. We've got new growth on the capsicum, which is going to be great this year. And we've got our lettuce planted out. The herb garden's on fire. Radishes in there are doing pretty good. And we've got our cucumbers in. They just went in yesterday, but they're going to go all right. A few people have asked me about the barriers and the eggshells. And look, I've used snail pellets before, but I do prefer to avoid pesticides where I can. This has been really successful this year. We've only lost one plant. So it's a bit of gutter guard with some broken up eggshells that we've collected through the year. So look, it's gone really well. Let's call it top tip for this week. I'm really happy with the way things are going and it's time to get our tomatoes in. Now, first week in November, traditionally when you get tomatoes in, I usually start mine earlier in October, but we've had a bit of a problem on the tomato front. Have a look at this guy. It's all yellowed. It's got black spot. Things aren't doing well at all. Now compare that to this one that we put in the ground earlier in the cloche and he's just fine. So look, let's talk about how this went wrong. So there's two rules with tomatoes that I know. One, don't use low quality soil. And that's exactly what I did back in September when we were repotting them. And didn't they look good back then as well? And number two, don't leave them wet and don't water the leaves. They're a soil water only. That's exactly what I did as well. So look, the white mildew came up, then the black spot came out of the soil and they just got sick and they got sad and look, they're done for. So look, we're gonna move on because this bloke, he's cactus. And look, I really tried to bring them back to life. I plucked off all the bad leaves, I put them out in the sun, and they're all looking so sad. But I thought, you know what? There's only one thing to do about this. Hooray!
Right,
thank you so much.
No worries.
Okay, there's a lot more.
Let's just come on over.
That's a lot more tomatoes
And
than
there's your invoice there.
Thanks so much.
No worries.
Cheers.
Enjoy your day.
Bye.
I...
I'm really happy with these tomatoes. They're gonna be wonderful this year. So I'm gonna go get them in the ground with old mate who came out of the cloche. So I mentioned this when we were planting the pumpkins. Most plants, you want to plant them only to the level that they were in the pot. But a tomato like this, prune off the lower leaves and I stick them in up to their knees and they look great. Let's stick them in now. Well, there we go. They're all in, looking just great. Getting a nice little drink, looking just dandy. What a great season this is going to be. Bent Spoke IPA. It's a cracker and I get a bit of a giggle out of it because I imagine myself a cyclist sometimes and the name's cool. So look, tomatoes in the bed. It's not what we were imagining back in June when we were doing seeds in the glass house, but hey, this is gardening. I'm an amateur. I'll share the good things that happen in the garden and the bad things when they do. Everything else though, really happy with the way it's going. So look, if you haven't liked the video already, please do subscribe if you haven't. Tell your mates about it if they haven't. And between me and you, be good to yourself and be good to your garden. Cheers. Things going just dandy.